And now I see clear in HD.
Gotta go hard, I ain't got time to waste. I ain't got time. I gotta go high, I gotta elevate. They wanna fight, I'm just gonna let them hate. I gotta go high, I gotta elevate.
What's up, guys? Okan here, back at it with another video. So I'm pretty excited about this one because it's not every time you play a predecessor to a game and it's as good or better than the previous entry, but that is definitely the case here with Miles Morales. This game picks up on all the shortcomings of Spider-Man 2018 and swings into better form. So, before I get into the review, I do want to say that this footage is not my footage. This is from GameRinks. Pretty good people over there. I love their videos. So I'm going to go ahead and link them below in the in the description. So you guys can check those out whenever you get a chance. But yeah, so when I first started this game, I wasn't exactly sure how it was going to go. All I knew about it was that it was going to be a new game in the franchise, but not a proper sequel in the same vein as Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. So a shorter experience, but still the next game in the series. The game took me about 7 or 8 hours to beat, and in that short amount of time, this was a really good game. So let's get into why though. First thing I want to talk about is the story more than anything. So this was a very heartfelt personal story, more so than the first game in my opinion. It was very contained for the most part, but as the game progressed, the story grew in scale, but not to the point where things became cluttered or too much to manage. It all fit together very well. And in the game, you play as a young Miles Morales who is just getting used to becoming his own Spider-Man. And you basically have to uncover a dark operation that takes place within Harlem while the other Spider-Man is out of town for a while. But the kicker is that all things are not as they seem, and things are going to hit a little closer to home than Miles thought initially. I think Insomniac did a really great job here with making you feel more than you did with the first game. By that I mean, like, the ending of Spider-Man 2018 was emotional for sure, but this game was emotional the entire way through, and it felt as if the stakes were much higher this time around, and playing as Miles felt more personal than playing as Peter in the first game. Like, there was more to lose here, and the main thing I want to stress is that, again, I really felt something, up to the point where even during the final act of the game, like the final mission, had me tearing up a little bit. You know, shed some gangster tears, and I was engaged the entire time, and I don't think it dropped off at any point of the game, if I'm being honest. So now I want to talk about the gameplay a little bit. Now, naturally, Miles has more powers than Peter does, so that meant there were more abilities to get to use here. And man, were they a welcome improvement. The gameplay in the first game was already so good as it is, so it was interesting to see how Insomniac would improve on it and make this game stand out. But with Miles' Venom Blast and his ability to also turn invisible, there's more ways to play here. Like, the stealth missions were more interesting, and I often found myself smashing into a group of enemies with his Venom Blast to stun a couple of guys. Then I'd pick them off one by one, and then I'd go invisible so I could stealth my way through the other parts of the missions. And it was nice to have that level of adaptability here. Another thing that this game does differently is that it lets you know that Miles and Peter pretty much aren't the same by how the characters swing through the city. Like, Miles is a little less experienced, so his animations are a bit more clumsy looking, and it feels different when you're swinging and jumping around. Like, when you do a point launch after swinging really fast, there's not as much impact with Miles as there was with Peter, and it seems like they dialed the movement down for Miles to show the clear difference in their characters. And I'm a big fan of how much effort was put into something that most people probably won't care about, but small tweaks like that are really cool to see. And one more thing I do want to mention in regards to gameplay is that the DualSense controller, it looks like they didn't put as much of a focus on utilizing its capabilities in the game, but I could feel some tension in the triggers that when you were swinging through the city a bit, it would feel a little tense when you would pull back on the trigger. So that was something kind of nice to feel. So this game was running on my PS5, and I had the system in performance mode instead of fidelity mode the whole time, and the game just looked and felt stunning. Character models were extremely lifelike. Swinging through the city felt smooth, and yes, you could see reflections in the puddles, so you don't have to worry about that. The ray tracing here was really nice and felt so lifelike. I played the game in front of someone and they thought that there were real people on the screen for a second. That's how realistic everything looked. And I never dropped frames or anything like that, so that was pretty nice as well. One of the things that impressed me the most was seeing characters' facial expressions when they were having conversations. The mocap at work here was done really well, and I loved it because it sold the performances that much more and made each character that much more believable and even more likable due to how much they put into it. So the game, in a way, had the task of escaping being in the shadow of the movie Into the Spider-Verse, what with them both being based on Miles as the main character. And all in all, I think it was pretty much able to do that. This Miles was a bit more experienced than the one in the movie, and also he didn't have any Jordans, so that was a big difference for him. But yeah, the soundtrack was kind of like, it's like they put a focus on the soundtrack here as well. They put a focus on Miles' humor and his relationship with everybody, but that's just the character as a whole. So, of course, they were going to have to share some liberties there. But the main thing that this game had, that the movie also had, is that Miles has an edge up. He has a fresh cut. He's looking good. And that was important. And they did it. So I appreciate that. It was a lifesaver this time around. Shout out Insomniac from learning from the first game because he was looking dusty. Don't really have any complaints with this game though. The only issue I had was that the camera during combat at times felt a little wonky. It would get too close and make it hard to see sometimes. But as a whole, this game is much better than Spider-Man 2018 because they were able to take all their learnings and apply it to this game. So all in all, Miles Morales is a complete experience in a small package that's full of cinematic sequences, great combat, a great soundtrack, beautiful character designs, and a lot of heart. There was a lot of representation in this game as well for Puerto Ricans and also for a black kid like me. You felt like very inspired overall, I would say. And the Spider-Man even knows ASL, which was a really subtle inclusion, but very dope as well to put something like that in the game. And I would say Insomniac is slowly becoming one of my favorite studios because as of late, it feels like they can do no wrong. And this title just went on to prove that point even further. The post-credit scene in this game just made me look forward to the next proper Spider-Man sequel whenever it finally comes out. But in the meantime, I'm going to worry about finishing up all the side content and working on platinuming this game because in the end, you just gotta be greater. And this definitely was a greater sequel. But that's going to be the end of the video, guys. Thanks so much for your support with watching this one as always. Again, this isn't my game footage, and I do want to mention again that this is from GameRanks, and I'm going to link them below. But look forward to more gaming videos coming soon because plenty more reviews on the way in the future. And yeah, I'm trying to work as hard as I can, but you know I am a one-person team. I gotta play the game, record it, get my thoughts out and all that stuff all together, but not complaining. Just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, so if you guys did enjoy this vid, go ahead and like, subscribe, and stay tuned to see what type of content I take on next. Later.
Bye.